Well, what is going on YouTube? Welcome back to a Therapeutic Edge. It is very nice to have you here. Hey, do me a favor. Hit that like and the subscribe button if you would. It helps out the channel and you get to see knife content. If, of course, you like knife content. Now, I have got something on the table that is new-ish, relatively new, from the folks at CJRB, or Artisan. This phenomenal little button lock. Oh, and by the way, welcome to Button Lock Week. The next 3 knives that we're going to talk about are all button locks. That's just the way the week worked out. Anyway, we'll get to these later. So this is the Pyrite, and this comes in a couple of flavors. Actually, it comes in this all steel, and it is a steel frame, and it comes in a G10 version as well. I like this one, so this is where we're going to primarily stay. You know, I like button locks. I've had a couple that I really enjoy. CJRB has really been killing it with these, so have a couple other companies. It seems to be the thing right now. But this, so ordinarily I don't like steel frame knives. It adds a lot of weight. It generally makes me feel kind of cheap. Anyway, there's lots of reasons why I don't. But this thing... Metal Complex has an excellent video on both the proto and this, which is the production version of these things. And I have to say, well, he and I agree often on knives. We don't always, but in this case, I absolutely do. The steel frame, which, by the way, is milled out like crazy on the inside, gives this thing a sense of being substantial that I really, really like. The action is superb. The Pyrite is just a great knife. I like the steel a lot better than I like the G10, although the G10 is a little lighter. But that's okay. Let's take a look at what you get. So first, if I could not drop it on the table, that would be good. First and foremost, these are $49.95 pretty much everywhere you can find them. And they are the same price whether you get the steel one or the G10, which is very cool. They have a shared deep carry clip, which is ambi. You can swap it around if that's your intent. Now, you can't you can't change the button. So from a lefty's perspective, it's going to drop that way, but that's okay. I just think it's a cool little knife. I really do. When I first saw this thing, I was like, yeah, it's another small knife. It's this, it's that. But it's, I don't know, I really like it. It's become kind of a favorite budget-friendly carry over the last couple of weeks that I've had it in the house. So let's get some specs out of the way, then we'll do some size comparisons and, kind of go from there. You get yourself 2 3/4 inches of cutting on what looks like 3 1/8 inches of their ARRPM 9 steel. What is that? Well, if you don't know, that is a powdered metallurgy steel. It is basically 9CR, but done in powder form, so it's got a finer grain. It holds an edge really well. All of the ARRPM 9 bladed knives that I have had have done a remarkably good job at holding an edge. It also keeps the price down. So you get sort of high-end mentality and modality in the steel without high-end pricing, which is really very nice. So anyway, you're looking at looks like about just slightly over 3 inches of ARRPM 9. The grip area from behind that swell right there, coming in at looks like just about 3 1/4, maybe a little less. However, it does have a forward choil that is, even with my big old fingers, usable. If we take that into account, you're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4 inches just dead on. Now, you can count all the way to the back of the handle, and believe me, when I'm holding on to it, right, so all the way to the back of the handle is 1, 2, 3 1/2. My hand does come to the very end of this knife, and yours will too if you've got full-size mitts like mine. But because of this lovely neutral shape, you don't feel like you're losing it back here. It's easy to hold on to, particularly easy to use. The drop point blade is really good for draw cuts. It's got a really nice tip on it, in case you needed to give something a little prod. It's very slicey, comes to a very nice edge. It's very sharp. I like it. Maybe you can tell. All right. Overall length on this thing is, well, let's do it to there. We're talking about 7 1/4. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and a little over 7 1/4 inches overall. It is a nicely sized knife. Closed length, it keeps bouncing because of the angle that I'm holding it at. It's, it's just the way it goes when you're trying to show off on a video. Closed length is 4 1/4. And of course, the in-the-pocket profile, because there's no flipper and it's thumb studs, is very lean. We're coming in at less than 1 1/4, so I'm going to say 1 1/8. Right, very nice. Let's do some size comparison, shall we? Line it up right there. First and foremost, and I have heard this from others, it does look similar to the bug out, but much, oh, excuse me, I gotta carry this thing a lot, so it's kind of gritty. First and foremost, here's what I'm going to say about that. I don't care. Neither should you, and here's why. The bug out is not a unique or original design. It is not groundbreaking in its pattern. It is, in fact, just a pocket knife. There are lots of pocket knives that look a lot like this, and that means that you don't get to throw a fit when something looks like it. It is not identical. It is quite different in a number of ways, not to mention the choil and a lot of other little bits and pieces, so let's just leave that there. It is, however, very similarly sized. The bug out is, in fact, just a little bit longer with a little more cutting. Here it is against the Rat 2, one of my least favorite pocket knives. And as you can see, the Pyrite's just a little bit bigger than the Rat 2. I do not like the way this knife feels in my hand. Here it is against a full-size Griptilian. As you can see, the Pyrite is considerably smaller than that. And then finally, the full-on Rat 1. Now, this, of course, was modified by Hilltop Knives and Gear, as you can see, a little choil action going on. But this helps you understand where the Pyrite falls in the overall size of things. It is not a big knife, and yet it is a nice handful of knife. I just think they've done a really nice job. The Pyrite is one of many excellent CJRB sort of budget-friendly cutting tools, whether you like it in G10 or in steel. Now, I've mentioned a couple of times that I prefer the steel. They feel exactly the same in hand. They have the same dimensions in all regards, but this is a knife that doesn't actually get served by being lighter. The little bit of extra heft you get from the steel scales here really work out in this knife's favor. It makes it feel substantial. Both are excellent cutting tools. So if you're looking for just an ultralight button lock, well, they make this for you. I like that one. And I've said that a couple of times. Let's get out the scale and weigh them. Something we do here, and it turns out people actually care. I don't really. I carry stuff that weighs a lot, right? So I'm not that worried about lightweight stuff. If I was wearing ultralight pants or dress pants, then it does matter. But for the most part, it's not really a relevant part of my life. So the Pyrite in steel comes in at 3.7 ounces, which is pretty good. By way of comparison, the Rat 2 here is 2.8, right? So it's a little heavier than a Rat 2. However, the G10 version comes in at 2.7. So 3.7, 2.7. So you're picking up an ounce for the steel scales. At 2.7, this is very competitive with our friend here. I like that extra ounce. I really do. By the way, these are really snappy. They got the detent dialed in on these really well. I'm nobody special, so these are nothing special. These are production versions. So if you order one, this is what you're going to get. Let's take a look at how much of that ARRPM 9 they give you. I'll put this somewhere where I'm sure I'll search for it later. We'll go ahead and we'll do the G10 model just for giggles. Way back here at the thickest point, they're going to give you 2.69 millimeters, just about 2.7 millimeters. So just shy of 3. And what that means, since it is a nice high flat ground, is a little bit of flat, but not much, is it drops down to a very nice edge. They are almost assuredly the same, but one never knows until one measures. Got to do it from the same angle to be fair, I suppose. 2.62. Interesting. According to my never wrong and highly expensive caliper, no, these are really cheap. Blade stock on, that makes no sense. Interesting. What is going on? 2.68. 2.63. Interesting. So slight variation in the blade stock. The steel linered one is a little thinner. Could be a slightly different production run. These could have come from two different runs. But I'll bet you if I swapped that blade, these would work just the same. That's weird. Anyway, about a little over 2.5 millimeters of blade steel. Now they do come down. I'm not going to do the behind the edge. I don't really do that. But I will tell you that these are both very, very slicey. Do we have anything to slice? Stand by. And we're back. All right, fresh piece of paper. Very nice. Fresh piece of paper. Equally nice. Both of these are very, very slicey. For basically $50, you get a really good button lock. You get a really well dialed in detent. You get a very nice looking knife in a steel that's going to hold an edge and is rust and stain resistant. I don't know. I think these are a total win. Now, if they're not for you, maybe you don't like button locks. That's cool. I get that. Not everybody likes everything, but I'm always going to have a place in my heart for the stuff that is budget friendly, despite the sort of ridiculousness of my personal collection, because this is where I started, essentially. You know, this is where most of us started. And the fact that what is essentially a budget tool has reached this level of refinement and excellence, I am on board. Before we go, I will say that the pivot on both of these is a T8 and the body screws are T6. Would have been nice if they'd have gone T8 all the way around, but I mean, really. And there you have it. This is the CJRB Pyrite, an excellent budget-friendly cutting tool from the folks at Artisan by way of their CJRB brand. They have done a phenomenal job. I will post a link to where you can find these in the description. I hope you've enjoyed this look. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.